two very important promises of God. You must remember them. In a life full of challenges and changes, we often seek comfort and hope. God's promises to humanity are a source of motivation and light, guiding us in dark times. From ancient times, these promises have provided people with solid faith and hope for a better future. The first promise, Jesus' promise to prepare a place for us, reflects his boundless love and care for humanity. This is not just a promise of an eternal dwelling, but also an invitation for us to step into a life full of meaning and joy. That life is not merely distant. It is a real presence of God in our lives, where all pain and worry will fade away. This encourages us to live with hope and trust in the bright future that he has prepared for us. God is not only a creator, but also a loving Father. He has affirmed that he will prepare a place for us. This is not just a promise of eternal residence, but also a call for us to live in closeness to him. In difficult moments, remembering this promise can help us find comfort and hope. In modern life, many people feel lonely and lost. They seek comfort and hope. One day, while I was sitting in a park, I met an elderly woman. She was sitting alone, her gaze distant. I decided to approach and talk to her. She shared that she had lost her husband and felt empty. But when she mentioned God's promise of preparing a place for us, her eyes lit up. She said, "I know there is a place where I will meet my husband again." That was a beautiful moment when that promise brought hope and comfort to her. Life is not just about passing days. It is about meaningful experiences. When we understand that we have a place to return to, a place where we are loved and welcomed, we will feel the true value of life. God's promise encourages us to seek and build a life with beautiful values. When we understand that life has value, we will live more fully. A friend of mine once went through a difficult time when he lost his job. Instead of drowning in sadness, he decided to participate in volunteer activities. He said, "I realize that helping others not only brings joy to them, but also to myself." Through these experiences, he found meaning and purpose in life, which can only be achieved when we live in the light of God's promises. The presence of God in our lives. One of the most wonderful things about this promise is the real presence of God in our daily lives. He is not far away. He is right beside us, guiding and supporting us in every circumstance. When we feel lonely or anxious, we can remember that he is always there, listening and ready to grant us peace. God is not just an abstract concept. He is present in the simplest moments. Imagine you are having a bad day, and suddenly a friend calls just to check on you. It may seem like a coincidence, but in reality, that is how God demonstrates his love. One time, I faced a difficulty in my life. As I sat in the corner of my room praying, I felt an unusual sense of peace. That was a sign to me that he was always there, ready to listen, acing pain and anxiety. Life is not always easy. We encounter difficulties, pain, and anxiety. However, God's promises remind us that these things are not forever. He has promised that one day all pain and sorrow will be wiped away. Faith in this promise can help us overcome challenges. Each of us experiences sorrow and worry. I remember a time when my mother was seriously ill. I felt like the whole world was collapsing. But during those long sleepless nights, I read passages from the Bible about God's comfort. The promises that everything would pass gave me the strength to get through that difficult time. Later, when my mother recovered, I realized that my faith in that promise had helped me maintain my spirit and find light in the darkness. Living with hope. Hope is a tremendous force. When we trust in God's promises, we find the strength to overcome any difficulty. Hope not only brings peace, but also ignites faith and courage within us. Let us live each day with trust in the bright future that He has prepared for us. Hope is a crucial motivation in life. One time, I participated in a personal development course, and the instructor shared the story of a woman named Lan, who overcame illness and financial difficulties to start a business. She said, "If I didn't have hope, I would never have been able to stand up." Her story inspired me and many others, helping us realize that hope is the key to unlocking the doors of the future. When we live with hope, we are also trusting in God's promises, sharing the promise with others. God's promises are not just for individuals. They are a message to share with the community. When we convey the beautiful things He has promised, we not only bring joy to ourselves, but also to those around us. Let us be a source of encouragement, a light in the lives of others. One of the best ways to experience God's promise is to share it with others. I remember participating in a small group at church where everyone shared their stories and beliefs. One woman spoke about helping poor families in the neighborhood. She said, "When I see the smiles on their faces, I feel God's love." That sharing not only helped others, but also enriched our own lives. When we give, we also receive joy and comfort in return. God's promises are a priceless treasure, a source of inspiration and steadfast faith. When we understand and live according to these promises, we will find peace and joy in life. Let these promises guide us on the path to getting closer to God and the wonderful things He has prepared for us. The second promise of Jesus, the Advocate, the eternal presence. When Jesus left this world, He left us a priceless gift, the Advocate. This promise is not just a comforting message, but also a guarantee that we will never have to face life alone. The Advocate comes to fill the gap between the present and the future, between the difficulties of life and the promise of eternal life. In this article, we will explore various aspects of this promise through personal stories and life experiences. When Jesus promised to send the Advocate, He not only assured us that we would not be left alone, He also affirmed that the Advocate would always be present beside us. I had a profound experience when I attended a prayer service at church. Throughout the service, as everyone prayed together, I felt a strange peace spreading within me. It was as if the Advocate was right beside me, listening to every prayer, understanding every worry. This feeling reminded me of a difficult time when I faced a significant decision in my life. I felt very confused and didn't know which path to take. In that moment, I decided to spend time in prayer, Shortly after, a friend unexpectedly called and shared a story I needed to hear, helping me find my direction. That was the presence of the advocate, working through the people he brought into my life. So, who is the advocate? The advocate is not just an abstract concept. He is a living entity, the Holy Spirit of God. His presence not only brings comfort, but also the strength to overcome challenges. During a difficult period in my life, I experienced a sense of loss. When my grandmother passed away, I felt like everything was collapsing. But in those sorrowful nights, I felt a deep comfort while I prayed. I had a strong sense that she was in a better place, and the advocate was helping me through the pain. Once, I participated in a faith discussion group where everyone shared their personal experiences. A friend shared that in difficult times, he was always present, helping her feel God's love and guidance. It was a reminder that the advocate is not just support, but also a companion on life's journey. Comfort in pain. The advocate comes to bring comfort in times of suffering. One story I always remember is about a friend of mine. He went through a tough time when his father was seriously ill. During that period, he was very anxious and didn't know how to support his family. However, through prayer, he felt an invisible comfort. He began attending group prayers and felt peace in his heart. He once shared that during prayer, he heard a small voice within him, encouraging him not to give up. That was the guidance of the advocate, helping him overcome pain and anxiety. In the end, even though the outcome was not as he had hoped, he found the strength to stand by his family and the peace in his soul that he granted him. The advocate's guidance in life decisions. The advocate also plays an important role in guiding us through decisions in life. Once I had to choose between moving to a new city for a better job or staying close to my family. I prayed a lot, asking God to guide me. One morning while I was walking in the park, I happened to meet an elderly woman. We started talking, and she shared her own decision when she moved to a strange place. Her words helped me reevaluate my decision. It was a moment when I realized the advocate was guiding me through these chance encounters. When we open our hearts to receive His guidance, we find that He is always present in our daily lives, helping us discover opportunities and the best paths for our future. Every decision, big or small, can be seen as part of the larger plan that God has prepared for us. Discovering peace through prayer. Prayer is how we connect with the advocate. One evening, feeling pressured from work and life, I decided to spend time in prayer. I wrote down my worries and asked for guidance. After praying, I felt as if every burden had been lifted. It was a sensation that only the advocate could bring. I realized that through prayer, we not only find peace, but also feel the boundless love of God. In prayer meetings, I see many people finding peace in difficult times through sharing and praying together. The advocate comes through our prayers, helping us overcome challenges and renewing our spirits. Sharing the promise with others. One of the wonderful ways to experience the Advocate's promise is to share it with others. Once I participated in a volunteer program at a shelter for the homeless. One evening, I met an elderly man. He shared about his life, the suffering and losses he had experienced. I felt his sadness, but when I told him about the Advocate and God's presence in difficult times, his eyes lit up. He said, "I never thought I could feel His love in times like these." That sharing not only brought joy to him, but also enriched my experience. We are not only recipients of God's grace, but can also be channels of His love to others. The promise of Jesus about the Advocate is a great source of encouragement and comfort for all of us. He is not just an invisible presence, but also a strength, a companion in the journey of life. When we open our hearts to receive the Advocate, we will find peace, joy, and strength to overcome all challenges. Let His presence guide you in every step, and remember that you are never alone. The promises of God help us find peace and joy in life. Let us open our hearts to receive those promises and live in the light He has given. Remember that no matter what challenges you face in life, He is always there, ready to guide and comfort us. By living with faith and sharing love with those around us, we can create a better world where God's promises become a reality in our daily lives. When we decide to follow God, we are not simply choosing a path. We are choosing a life filled with hope, a life where God walks beside us. His promise that I will be with you is not just an abstract statement, but a living reality, a priceless comfort during difficult times. Imagine standing at a crossroads in your life. It could be a major decision like changing jobs, moving to a new city, or facing a serious illness. In those moments, feelings of anxiety and uncertainty can envelop you, making you feel alone and unsure of what to do. But it is precisely in these moments that we must remember that God is with us. He never abandons us. He is always ready to support us with His boundless love. Let me share a story about a friend of mine named Ha. She once faced a challenging time when she had to cope with the loss of her beloved father. In the days following his passing, Ha felt as if her world had collapsed. She didn't want to meet anyone, and the days dragged on like a nightmare. However, one evening, while sitting alone in her room, she decided to open the Bible and pray. In that silence, she felt an extraordinary peace wash over her, as if God was holding her and saying, "You are not alone." That was the moment Ha realized God's presence, and from then on she began to find faith and hope in her life again. God's presence is not only felt in silent moments, but also through the people around us. You may have received support from friends, family, or even strangers. Every word of encouragement, every act of kindness can be a sign that God is working through them. Once I volunteered at a homeless shelter, where I met an elderly man who had endured many hardships in life. As he shared his journey, he mentioned that his faith in God's presence had helped him overcome every challenge. His eyes sparkled, as he spoke about how he felt supported by those around him, reminding me that God is always present through the people he brings into our lives. As we walk this journey, it is essential to open our hearts to his guidance. When you pray, sincerely express your worries, fears, and desires. He is always listening and ready to respond. One evening, when I felt overwhelmed by work and relationships, I decided to take time to pray. After praying, I felt as though every burden had been lifted and a sense of peace flooded my heart. That was the power of his promise, I will be with you. Life may be filled with challenges, but when we understand that we are not alone, it empowers us to stand firm. God's promise is a great source of encouragement that helps us overcome difficulties and find light in darkness. Let his presence guide you through each step of your life. You are not just an isolated individual. You are part of a greater community where love and support flow through every connection. Finally, remember that God is always with you, no matter where you are or what challenges you face. Believe that he will never forsake you, but is always ready to help and comfort you. Peace and joy will come to you when you open your heart and embrace his promises in your daily life. Live with faith and share love with those around you, for that is how we collectively create a better world where God's promises become a reality in every moment.